What is up, YouTube? Ultimate Lock here. I'm going to be going over how to repair the save batteries in Game Boy games and Game Boy Color games. So first off, these are the two batteries that you will need. Yellow has a special battery. It's CR1616, and I believe this is a CR32 battery. It might be a 25. I'll have everything you need in the description, so that way it's not confusing. Also, you're going to need a 3.8 security bit for Nintendo games, and everything can be pretty much purchased off of eBay. It's very, very easy to get basically the equipment to actually solder in these new batteries. You're going to need a soldering iron, which I have right here. Make sure that you take the game apart and take it out of the case. Many people try to solder it while it's actually still in the case. You don't want to do that. You'll severely damage the case. And you're going to obviously need some solder. So I think that's everything that I can think of. So yeah, let's get started. So we're going to do Pokemon Yellow. Now, I'm only going to do Pokemon Yellow and Crystal. And we're also going to be cleaning off the pins. The reason why I'm only doing Pokemon Yellow and Crystal is because Pokemon Yellow has a special save battery. Its save battery is this right here. And this is a CR1616 battery, and I believe this is a CR2525 or 3232. Either way, again, I'll have in the description what the big battery is and what the small battery is. I definitely know that this is a CR1616. In every single other Pokemon game for the Game Boy uses this battery. Almost actually every single game for Game Boys uses this battery. For whatever reason, for Pokemon Yellow, they decided to go the CR1616 battery, which is used for the Game Boy Advance cartridges and Yellow. So this is a special battery for a special game compared to all the others. So I have my power tool to make this a lot faster. Right? Just take the screw out. Pretty simple. And here's your PCB board. And as you can see here, it's soldered on two sides. So this is fairly easy. It's basically just matching right there. And voila. So now we just need to solder it. And using a little bit big of a soldering iron, but that's okay. When you're actually doing like precise soldering, this is actually extremely terrible, but thankfully Pokemon games aren't really that precise. Recently I had to repair one of my arcade sticks. Basically one of the smallest wires you can possibly think of came loose, and I had to solder that on, and the wires are right next to other wires, so it was a pain. So one thing that's like, just for a heads up, if you do take apart a game, make sure you keep the battery the way it actually was. That way you don't forget which way it was, because if it was feels like this and you install the battery like this, it's going to be the opposite, so the battery's not going to work. So obviously it was like this, so basically just move this to the side, and there you go. This is extremely easy. It's not too hard. If you don't have the equipment, your local game store most likely would do this. I know M&M Games near my house solders Game Boy game batteries and Nintendo 64 batteries for $10 each, I believe, which is not too bad, all considering. Now, you don't have to use solder, or obviously you have to use solder, but like, you don't actually have to use new solder. You can just use the existing solder. It's solder. It works. Many people will tell you, oh no, you need to put more solder on there. It's like, no, you really don't. There's some games that I have come across that you basically do need to add a little solder to. I'm going to actually add a little solder to this side because there's not enough to where it'll hold indefinitely. So let me break off some solder here. So I have some solder right here. I'll put this on there. Okay. Let's look at that. I think that looks pretty damn good. As you can see there, both ends are correctly soldered. I guess I could add a little more to this edge, which I'll do that. It's better safe than sorry. I don't really think it actually needs it, but just for video purposes, you know, it takes me literally 2 seconds to add the solder on. And it doesn't really hurt to have too much excess solder. Alright, and voila, save battery has been replaced. The game will now save correctly, and this should last for about 7 to 10 years, if not more. So let's put it together, which literally takes 2 seconds. And, oh, actually wait. We're going to now clean it. You can keep it in here, this way vinegar doesn't actually get on top of whatever you're cleaning on. When soldering, strongly suggest you actually put something down. If you've seen my desk in other videos, which I don't actually know if you have, probably in one of my collection videos, there's like 2 black dots. That's because the soldering iron actually touched my desk and burnt it. So yeah, definitely want to make sure that you put something down to ensure that you don't end up burning your whatever you're using. So okay, so we're gonna use this vinegar right over here. Vinegar is an acidic, and it will clean off the dirt without damaging the pins, which is very nice. This can be used for Game Boy games, Game Boy Advance games, pretty much any game, no matter what the system is, as long as it's not a disc, because discs don't have pins. You can use vinegar. It's fine, doesn't hurt anything. Gonna make sure that you're gonna need to actually make sure that you dry it off though, and this will pretty much make sure that your games actually read the first time every time. Like, obviously some people usually blow on the cartridges. You won't have to do that. The reason why you have to blow on the cartridges is because the cartridge pins are dirty. This is what cleans the cartridge pins. Now this, as you can see right here, this is the Q-tip. You see how it's a little bit black? Yeah, it's not that bad. I've literally had games that were like pitch black and they wouldn't get red, so I was like, huh, that's pretty amazing. So I think one of the ones I got was like Pokemon Yellow for like $2. It was either a Pokemon Yellow or Pokemon Fire Red, or not Fire Red, Pokemon Red version. Maybe it was Fire Red, I don't know. But pretty much I got it for like $2 because the person couldn't get it to start. And then I looked at the pins and it looked like a lot of debris got in there. So I pulled out all the crap that was in there, so you couldn't even put it in the Game Boy cartridge to test it. And I cleaned out the pins and the game worked like it was brand new. I was like, that's pretty cool. There you go. Pins are cleaned. And let me put this. And that is why sometimes using a power tool is not the best bet, because now I just have vinegar all over my mat. But that can go into the fail completion. Doesn't really matter too much. It's not going to destroy anything. But I should have probably been holding that down, but the GoPro is kind of in the way. Alright, well, that's done. Let me go put it into the DS, or not the DS, but the Game Boy Advance to show you guys that it works and everything, and then I just soldered my Pokemon Yellow to death. The first time, every time, which is pretty cool. So yeah, it would take me like 10 minutes to go through the save function and everything, because you have to start a new game, so you just have to trust me on that. Once you solder it in correctly, unless the battery is dead, it's going to work 99.9% of the time. I've had it one time out of the 400 games where basically I soldered it in correctly, and for whatever reason, the pins were actually not there. They got soldered off somehow, which I don't actually know how that's possible. So, we're now going to do Pokemon Crystal. Pokemon Crystal is like Pokemon Red, Blue, Silver, and Gold. They all use the exact same battery. So, once you have this, Once you have this battery, this will basically be the main battery for Game Boy games. Again, Pokemon Yellow is just kind of weird. It uses basically the GBA game batteries, which I'll do another video on. Alright. And yeah, vinegar is all over the place. That's always awesome. So here's the battery right here. See here, the pins are a little bit dirtier. So we're actually going to clean off the pins first. Yeah. Okay. Use the back end and clean it. Again, this won't hurt anything. You can even get vinegar all over here. It's not going to do anything bad. Try not to, though. It's better to be safe than sorry, but vinegar is not going to really damage too much stuff. The only way that you could potentially destroy your game is if you go off and you do this and you don't actually wipe it off or clean it down. And when you obviously power up the board, then you have water inside, which is something that you don't want. So make sure you dry it off correctly. This is fine. All you literally need to do is take like toilet tissue or just a paper towel and clean it off. Nothing special. Okay, so as you can see here, that's the way you want to have the battery set up. Fairly simple. This battery's already been replaced, but it wasn't replaced by me, and the battery is dead. So most likely it was replaced back in like 2011. Okay, there's the battery right there. All right. Okay, that's done. I'm going to add a little bit more solder. The GBA games usually do require more solder. Or not GBA, Game Boy games. Pokemon Yellow is, again, an exception because it uses the CR1616 batteries. And the way it was, I could have probably let it slide. But I decided, you know, it's better to be safe than sorry, especially with the people who are actually watching this video. If you're doing this for, like, one game, then you're going to want to make sure that you don't have to do it again. Okay, that's good. And then okay. Rule number one, when you're using a soldering iron, turn it off after you're done. Like, I'm done now, turn it off. Make sure it's unplugged and everything. I actually had my soldering iron plugged in because mine's a welder, and it has, let me show you guys. It has two plugs. This is the soldering iron plug, and then it has a plug, or it has basically a plug that goes from here, from the station. And the station was unplugged, but somehow I accidentally plugged in the soldering iron, and even with it not being plugged in the station, it still turned on and got extremely hot. Thankfully, it was in the like protective holding to where it wasn't going to burn my house down, but if a cat or basically myself knocked it over and didn't realize and then walked out of the house, definitely would have caused a fire. So it's always better to make sure that doesn't happen. And yeah, so here's the PCP board. Looks really, really nice. As you can see here, it's nice and great. Solder takes literally like 2 to 3 seconds to cool down, so you can literally touch it afterwards. It's not going to hurt you or burn you. Now, usually the board will be much hotter than the actual solder. Well, I should say afterwards, because this stuff cools down really, really fast. And we're going to play this. Dun, 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 dun. But yeah, most local GameStops do this if you end up, or not GameStops, game stores do this if you end up not wanting to go off and do this yourself. Because I can understand if you don't trust yourself with a soldering iron, that's totally fine. I really do not blame you. But here you go, battery installed. You can test it out. For the first time every time, which is always nice. Okay, we're gonna go again. Jeez. Yeah, definitely fast forward this. So, as you can see here, it did save. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to comment, rate, and subscribe, and peace out.